So the same thing kind of always happens when a new phone is announced. The media gets the device ahead of time, maybe a couple days, a couple weeks if we're lucky, and we get to use it while we're preparing our review. Then the date and time of the press embargo arrives, the embargo lifts, everybody posts their review at once, and it is a giant, big frenzy of activity. There's commenters going nuts and defenders and attackers, and it's just a huge explosion for about a day. And then everything disappears. I mean, sure, there's follow-up coverage and stuff as people find bugs, people have other stuff to say about the devices, they wear them in over the course of a day or so, but really, nobody ever goes back and revisits these devices after that initial blast of review to see how they feel after a couple weeks. So let's do something about it. Let's take a look at another device whose day as the media darling has come and gone. I'm Michael Fisher with PocketNow.com. This is the Samsung Galaxy Nexus LTE, and this is Episode 5 of After the Buzz. The Verizon version of the Galaxy Nexus, the Galaxy Nexus LTE, was supposed to be my cure for phone hopping. It was supposed to be the phone that, personally, for me, kept me interested for more than a few months. It was a series of firsts. It was my first phone on Verizon Wireless, it was my first LTE device, and it was also my first experience with a Nexus-class device from Google. And it wasn't just new ground for me. This was the first time a Nexus device had been sold by Verizon in a retail setting, and it was one of their early LTE devices. Not one of the first LTE phones, but it was in the early wave, and it was a big deal when it launched a little over 7 months ago. It had a lot of potential. So, after over a half year of use, how has it lived up to that potential? Well, there's good and there's bad in the hardware and in the software. Let's take a look at each in order. I've often picked on the Galaxy Nexus when comparing it to other phones because it's never really seemed to me to aspire to anything. It's what I call a handsome device. It's not ugly by any means, but it's not mind-blowing. That said, it has got a lot going for it. I like the teardrop-style design, I like the textured battery door, and I like the ever-so-slight curve of the display glass. I adore its notification LED. All I need to do is glance at the phone, even if it's across the room, to see if I've missed something. And I don't know whether it's just me, but every time I return to the Galaxy Nexus from my time with the review device, I just feel a sense of relief. The device feels wonderful in the hand, with perfect width, and especially with the extended battery door, which thickens it up just a tad. It sits perfectly in the palm. It's a very comfortable device to hold, and it doesn't make me struggle as much when trying to get to the notification drawer as other larger devices like the Galaxy S3, which is feels like a much larger device in the hand, even though it's not that much bigger in actuality. And even though it's not winter anymore and I've switched to shorts, it fits just fine in a pocket. The hardened display glass here isn't foolproof. It does, in fact, scratch. I don't use a screen protector, so I've scratched it up in a number of places. The panel itself continues to be a real disappointment as well. I like the deep blacks that the Super AMOLED panel provides, and I like that it's big and it's 720p, but the white reproduction is just awful. It's washed out and gray and ugly. The colors often seem dead, and the panel is quite dim and lacking in color. It's sad. As for the rest of the phone, the plastic casing picks up oil from your hand quite readily, which is annoying. As a bonus, though, the texturing on the battery door covers up scratches and scuffs very, very nicely. From a hardware perspective, this phone is a real trooper. I mean, I haven't beaten it up too bad, but I haven't always been kind to it either, and it's held up really well. So unless you're a real abusive phone owner, you shouldn't have too much trouble with the Galaxy Nexus LTE hardware. So how about the software and the rest of the experience? I'm running stock 4.0.4 ICS on my Galaxy Nexus, and once again, returning to this phone from review units always gives me a strong sense of relief. Responsiveness, even after over 6 months, is superb. And this is ICS, not Jelly Bean. We're not seeing any Project Butter action here. It really just runs like a finely tuned watch. I seldom experience crashes, and I've never had to do a full device wipe or reset. I have plenty of storage, 32 gigs, and I do use it as my primary media player with very, very few problems. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It didn't take me long to realize that this phone has some serious shortcomings. Remember how we talked about this being an early LTE device? Well, it takes the Galaxy Nexus forever to connect to the network if you've lost signal. Now, normally that wouldn't be a problem, but I take the subway somewhere almost every day, and we don't have coverage underground here in Boston, so at least once a day I'm waiting, sometimes over a minute, for the device to find the network connection again. That would have been fine in 2001. It's not fine now. Maybe because of all this network stuff, battery life suffers accordingly. There's no way I could make it a full day with the Galaxy Nexus LTE without my trusty spare battery and my power pack. I'll put it this way. I pretty much always leave the apartment the same way. I walk out the door, I walk to a bus stop, I ride the bus to a train station, and then I wait for the train. That takes about 10 to 15 minutes, during the entirety of which I'm on my phone the whole time. Before the train even arrives, every day, that's less than 20 minutes, I'm down below 90%. That's ridiculous. The camera has really fared no better, but everyone knows this already. You don't buy a Galaxy Nexus for its camera. You're going to get okay shots in the daytime or indoors if there's enough light for it, but for dim environments you're not going to be blown away. The shots look slightly better on a computer screen than they will on the phone because of that washed-out display, but bottom line, it's still just not a very good camera. By far the most frustrating part of the device, though, has been in the Nexus sense. Nexus phones are supposed to get timely, first-crack updates from Google, the latest version of Android, and Verizon has really, truly botched the entirety of that experience. I've talked about this already in a piece on the site called This Ain't No Nexus Phone, which you should read. And yes, I know, that's the nature of the beast with a CDMA device. But it shouldn't be marketed as a Nexus phone if my update to 4.0.4 is going to arrive months after it does for the non-Verizon Galaxy Nexus. That's a huge messaging failure and a real disservice to anyone buying this phone for the pure Google experience. Still, more than a year and a half after release, the Galaxy Nexus LTE is still a great Android phone with awesome data speeds. So if that's all you're looking for, if that's all you're getting it for, as an Android smartphone with all the Nexus stuff aside, I absolutely think you will be happy, as long as you A, carry a spare battery, and B, don't expect too much from the camera. If you're okay with these things, this is a great Android smartphone. It really is, and I don't hesitate to recommend it, even now that we're more than a half a year, there's less than a half a year left before we see its likely successor. On the other hand, if you're looking for a genuine Nexus device with direct from Google support and timely updates to the latest version of Android, I also don't hesitate to say run. Run as far away from this device as you can. Run to the Google Play Store and get yourself the real Galaxy Nexus, the HSPA unlocked version. It's priced very reasonably, and most importantly, you'll be getting what you paid for, a real Nexus device, which, sorry to say, the Verizon version here is not. Guys, this has been episode 5 of After the Buzz. We hope you liked it. Leave us a thumbs up here. Leave us a comment on the post at pocketnow.com. If you have something to say, we'll try and get back to you there. You can follow us on Twitter at PocketNowTweets. You can follow me on Twitter at Captain2Phones. That's Captain, the number 2, Phones. And you should stay tuned for future episodes of After the Buzz and future videos. They're coming soon. Till then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.